All right. Hey, welcome everybody to our BSPU call today. I'm going to do a little special recording on my Stream Deck as well as Zoom because I feel like some of this is foundational and I want to keep this in the BSP membership area. I want to talk today about how to make a return on investment with your book. This is not going to be exhaustive, although I am going to lay all the foundational groundwork and hopefully really help you to think about how to get a great return on investment. Some of this is because of a meeting that I had today. One of our fellow BSP authors and a good friend, Mark Grine, who's a treasure hunter and is here in Florida right now. He's got a multi-million-dollar boat right off the coast here in Florida. He referred a really cool guy, one of his early investors, to me, who's written a number of books, all history-related books, and wanted to talk to me about me helping him like I was able to help Mark with launching it to bestseller and PR and media and all of that. We spent a good length of time. He happened to be here in St. Augustine, and because he was referred by a client that I've done multiple books and multiple projects for, I sat down with him. We had a cup of coffee. Really, really great guy. And what I found is exactly what I expected to find, and unfortunately, I think it's similar to what even I think some of you may struggle with the book, and that is that the book itself is not your sole means to return on investment, meaning that if you're simply thinking that sales of the book are going to get you a return on investment from what you've invested in your own time and energy, as well as what you've invested with bestseller publishing, then you're going to be unhappy. And look, this is not new. I talk about this in my videos. We talk about this in our author coaching calls. We talk about this on an ongoing basis, but I want to lay some good groundwork for you today on how to think. And a lot of this was part of my discussion with this potential client. And a return on investment is something he's interested in. He's a pretty wealthy individual, but really what he's looking for in his case is to just break even and be able to continue to write and enjoy his life. And so the plan is significantly different than it will be, or what I would do for one of you or for myself, right? Because I want to take what I've invested in my book and I want to make 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. And I want to do that even every year if I can, right? I imagine you feel the same. Well, you're not going to do that by selling copies of your book. You know that. So you need a great plan and you need a great system in place to be able to do that. So I took a bunch of notes and have them in a Word document. I'm going to share that with you right now. And then I'm going to go through this step by step together with you. So let me go ahead and share my screen and let's rock here. Okay. So I'm going to talk through several elements of this. And give you some examples and talk through with you. Obviously, any questions that you have, I'll do my best to answer those questions, etc. So how to make a return on investment with your book. There are multiple steps to this, but it's not like it's nothing that you haven't heard before, but I want to try to put these pieces together. In fact, most of what I teach is typically from one element of this entire plan. All right. So first and foremost, I want you to ask yourself the question, and if you haven't completed your book yet, this is a good mental exercise for you to take yourself through. But that is, how are you using, or if you haven't finished your book, how are you going to use your best asset ever? Your book is like the foundational asset for your business, for a speaking career, for you to position yourself as an authority. It is the best asset you will ever have. So if you have already created your book, you need to ask yourself a hard question, and that is, how are you using your best asset ever to grow your authority, get in front of the right clients, close more clients, help more people, serve more people? If you're not doing anything with it, then shame on you, because you're probably hurting a lot of people that could benefit from having your book, and you're certainly hurting yourself and your business by not using it in the way you should. So what are the things that you need to think about when it comes to using your best asset ever? Well, number one is the book alone is not enough. The book by itself is not enough. You need to have other things to sell. Now, this is nothing new. The vast majority of my clients are entrepreneurs, your business owners, et cetera, your coaches, your consultants. So you understand that, but I want to make it really clear, because that means that you should be using your book to get the other things that you want within your business, to sell more coaching, to sell more products, to sell more speaking engagements, et cetera. So these are the things that you need to think about. Number two, how are you using your book in conjunction with lead generation to sell more of your thing? Number three, how are you using your book to get PR and media to sell more of your thing, to get you more of what it is that you want? Number four, how are you using speaking engagements to sell more of your thing, to get more of what it is that you want? Now, your book will get you all of those things. And by the way, in one sense, lead generation is like the foundational thing, and then everything kind of flows from that. But there are so many different kinds of lead generation. I felt like it's good enough to separate that by itself. The end of PR and media is not PR and media. The end goal of PR and media is for you to get in front of more people and to generate leads for your business. The end of speaking is not the speaking itself, right? It's not that you landed as speaking engagements. It's to use that speaking to get more of whatever it is that you're selling, right? Remember, the book alone is not enough. So we always talk about the profit piece, right? Publish, promote, profit. The profit phase is lead generation, PR and media, and speaking engagements. And all of those are not a means to an end themselves. All of those are about you selling, you serving, you, bringing on more customers into your business, using your book to get those things, using your book to generate more leads, using your book to get more PR and media, using your book to get more speaking engagements. And you don't have to do all of those things, but you need to do some of them. And then number five, this needs to be systematic and ongoing. Many people do well during the launch of their book, and then they're wondering, well, what happened? Why has it stopped? Well, it stopped because you stopped, right? We generate leads every single day. If I went into my inbox and showed you right now, you would see, 10, 15 strategy session applications and appointments set for my team, for Blake, for Austin, for David. You'd see that right now. Why? Well, because we want to have a business beyond this month. We want to have a business next month and the month after and the month after and the month after. And so that means that I need to have a systematic way to continue to generate leads, generate PR and media, generate speaking engagements, even if they're only speaking engagements on my own stage. And this needs to be ongoing. So it's got to be a system, and it has to be a system that we follow day in and day out, week in and week out. Okay. So we begin thinking about and deciding, right, to ourselves. This is a question for you to ask yourself. How are you using your best asset ever to generate leads, to generate PR, to generate speaking? If you're not doing anything, then don't expect a whole lot from it. That's just the way it works. If you're using it, it will supercharge all of your results, and it will put you in front of people in the best possible light ever, right? It is your best asset ever. So these are the 3 steps, if you will, and they're not so much steps as they are ways to think. Point 1 is the plan. What are you selling? Now, for some of you, this is baby steps. You're like, I already have a business. I'm already selling this. Fantastic. Good. For some of you, no, because you're pivoting, you're transitioning, you're moving into more of a consulting arena or coaching, or maybe you sold a business or left a business or whatever, and you're using your book to pivot in some way. Well, the first thing you've got to decide, and all of us have to decide, is what are we really selling within our business? We are not selling books. That is not what we do. We are selling something. So these are the questions that you need to ask yourself, or these are things that you need to come to like clarity on when it comes to what you're selling. Number one, ask yourself and do some research. What are others selling in your space to get a return on investment? If you're in the financial services field, then you can look around and you can find, guys like Rick Edelman and ladies like Susie Orman, and they're not just selling books. They're selling something else. Dave Ramsey is selling something else. He's selling courses. He's selling coaching, right? What is it that others are selling in your space to get their return on investment? Now, I'm asking you to do that because that will give you some more things to think about. If A, you don't have anything beyond your book right now because you're pivoting, or B, even if you do have something beyond your book right now, this will give you some additional things to really think about, right? Like, oh, I could also be selling this, or I could sell this in a different way. Number two, when it comes to what you're selling, you've really got to make sure that the thing that you're selling fits your desire, your personality, and your strengths. Your desire, your personality, and your strengths. Now, those three things are different. And I do something called the 3 E's. I've taught on it before, but basically it's 3 circles that come together and have one spot in the middle that we try to find. And those 3 E's are: what am I excellent at? What do I enjoy doing? And where are my opportunities to earn the most money? In the same way, you can think about the thing that you desire, right? That excites you, what fits your personality and strengths, what you're excellent at, and obviously what others are selling, so that you can know, well, if others are selling it, I can too, and this is an area that I can earn money in. Whatever that is, whatever that looks at. Using the example of the gentleman that I met with today, he's never going to, he's a wealthy individual. He's not going to start a coaching program. He's not interested in consulting. He doesn't even want giant fees to speak. What he's really interested in only is selling books. So as you might imagine, I said, well, what do others do that sell books? And we talked about that a little bit. And I said, well, here's what they do. Even the most famous authors you have ever heard of, like Stephen King, continue to write new books. They have a new book coming out every single year. So if you only want to make money selling books, then you better have volumes of content out. And there are other steps, right? You have to build a platform. You need to build an email list. You need to build a following like Stephen King does, like other J.K. Rowlings and very successful authors, et cetera. That's not what I want for you. What I want for you, of course, is you're going to sell something much more expensive where people are writing big checks to you. And you need to think, does this thing really fit my desire, my personality, and my strengths? Number 3, keep it simple. Okay. What are you selling? Keep it as simple as possible, meaning you'll see me do a lot of different things. And I teach you and I show you the things that I'm doing. I'll show you how to do, a crazy online free plus shipping funnel where you have multiple upsells and downsells. And look, if you've never created a funnel before, if you don't know how the market will react to your various courses, your upsells, your downsells, et cetera, then that's probably not the best place to begin, right? You want to keep what you're selling very, very simple. You don't need to create like 6 different things right out of the gate, right? And if you don't know what I mean with my free plus shipping funnel, then you can go to publishpromoteprofit.com and you can go through it and see it for yourself. And there's a whole training in the BSPU area on my funnel. So you don't even need to go there. Just go through the training and watch it, right? I have my book, I have the digital version, I have like a whole workbook, and then multiple things that they can buy for an additional $19.95. Then I have the $37 Kickstarter course. And then I have the 6 course and the audio book for $47. Then I have BSPU for $2.99. I have all this stuff. You don't need to create all of that to be successful. So my suggestion is keep it simple to begin. Okay. You don't need to complicate the thing. If you have something that you're selling right now and it works and you love it and it fits your desire, personality, and strengths, then great. Let's get more of that before we branch out. Number 4, map it out. Now, obviously, this is for those of you that haven't mapped it out yet, meaning that you're not already selling it, but you need to think about price points, upgrades, offers, etc. Whatever it is that you're selling, if you're selling a coaching program of some kind, if you're selling consulting, that needs to be like clearly defined, clearly mapped out. And I have oodles of training on that, right? My entire training on how to create a $264,000 coaching program. Just watch that. That maps out exactly how you can do it with price points, upgrades, offers, and everything. Remember, I told you, most of my trainings for the BSPU calls come from 1 or 2 elements of these things. Number 5, high ticket is always better. When it comes to what you're selling, look, high ticket, meaning something that's $3,000 or more, is always, always, always better. Why? Because it gives you more room for error, especially if you're going to try to, advance your lead generation through other sources like online, like speaking, like things that you have to take money out of your pocket and pay for. High ticket is always better. It gives you room for error. It gives you higher margins. So always focus on that. And in fact, along those lines, probably most of you are underpricing your thing anyway. So I can't tell you what that looks like because I know there's a few dozen of you on right now, but most every client that I've talked to doesn't really understand the amount of price elasticity in their marketplace. When you are the best at what you do, you are proven because you're a best-selling author. You have all of this foundation of media and everything that we can provide you, and you are head and shoulders above your competition from the standpoint of how you're framed with your book and your media and everything else, then there's a lot more flexibility in your pricing than you might want to believe. So the first thing many of you should do to get an ROI is raise your prices. So that is the way to think around what it is that you're selling. Let's talk for a minute about how you are selling it, because this is where the book can really supercharge your results. So the first thing to think about is, okay, a little bit of research for you. How are others selling in your space for an ROI? There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. We know that in every space, in every coach, every consultant, those that are at the absolute top of their fields, they've written books and they're using those books to get a return on investment. Just take a look and figure out, okay, what are they doing to use their books to get a return on investment? Maybe it's as simple as using their books to get on media and PR and speaking engagements. Maybe it's as complicated as using their books in conjunction with a free plus shipping funnel and, having unlimited lead generation because they're breaking even on the front end. I don't know, but you need to take a look and figure out how it is that people in your space, in your field, are using their books. Number 2, similar to what are you selling? Number 2, and how you're selling, what fits your desire, personality, and strengths? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's lots of ways to generate leads and sell your thing. There's online traffic, there's offline traffic, there's speaking engagements, there's webinars, challenges, referrals, media and PR. And when it comes to media and PR, it could be you having your own podcast or blog, or it could be you on a regular basis getting on other people's podcasts or blogs. So tomorrow or the next day, my third interview with John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire goes live. This is my third interview. I've made about 150 to 175,000 from the 2 interviews that I was on with JLD in the last 2 or 3 years. So I petitioned him to get on again. Why? Because my people are there and they're listening. And the fact that they're listening and they trust him, they get 1 million downloads a month. That's a place that I want to be. Well, guess what? I had to write a check to get on that podcast. He has now, for every single guest, he makes them pay a podcast fee. For me, I was like, no problem. How fast can I send it to you? Now, just because you pay the fee doesn't mean that you can actually get on his podcast, because he still has, pretty high standards in regard to that. The point is, being on podcasts, that's the thing that I focus on. I have my own podcast now, finally, after all these years. What fits your desire, personality, and strengths? You have to make a choice and a decision. Don't say, well, everything does. Of course, everything does. But number 3, choose one to begin. Just one. Start with one of those things and go deep. I promise you, if you decide, well, I want to use my book online to generate leads, great. There's 300 ways to use your book online to generate leads. Just choose online. Forget about speaking and all the other things. If you're just going to choose one, choose that one and then go deep in it, right? Don't go wide thinking you want to do everything. Go deep in the first one, get it working, and then you can expand from there. Number 4, you have to ask yourself, what does your funnel look like? Now, I don't want to complicate this term. When I say funnel, don't think, your online series of web pages with upsells and downsells. No, my first funnel with my first book, Life After Debt. I was looking for it. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere on my shelf. My first funnel was really simple. It was getting on radio and then me eventually having my own radio show and then offering the book for free. All they had to do was call my office or call the radio station. That was the whole funnel. And so every single day, and I say every single day because we started buying enough media. If you remember the story, if not, I'll give you the 30-second version. I used my book to get on some free radio shows. This is pre-podcast days. And literally from the first day I was on, I used my book. I offered my book to ship it to people for free, and people started calling. And from the very first day, I started making sales and growing my business. Well, guess what? Getting on people's radio stations and shows dried up fast, meaning that I needed fresh leads constantly. So what did I do? I said, well, I'm going to start buying airtime. So I put ads on the radio. Then I was offered my own radio show, and I did 4 hours of live radio a week. And so we just expanded to the point where we were spending about $20,000 a month on radio. This is back in 2009, 2010. Now, that sounds like a big number, but I didn't start at 20,000. I got to 20,000 because we were making hundreds of thousands a month from our radio. That was the whole funnel. The whole funnel was make a commercial, get on radio, offer the book for free, and the telephone rings because they had to call my office or call the radio station and give me all their information to get the free book sent to them. That was the whole funnel. So a funnel can be a very, very simple strategy. And I've shared a bunch of different kinds of funnels that you guys can use, whether it's, offering the book free on radio, using a free plus shipping funnel, using a challenge, doing a webinar, whatever. What does your funnel look like, right? There has to be a strategy in place to go from your book to a lead to a sale. And then number 5, once you get that lead from the funnel, how are you going to close sales? If you're the only person that does the one-on-one call and you're selling something higher ticket, you're coaching, you're consulting or whatever, well, then probably more than likely you can't handle a ton of leads and opportunities because you're just one individual. So you have to think about that. In your case, you may be super happy with that, and you may not want to expand or scale your business at all, and that is totally fine. So you may think, well, all I really need, Rob, is I just need 1 or 2 qualified people to speak to on a daily basis. Great. That's easy to do. You can do that a ton of different ways, and I've shown you some of those ways. Now, if on the other hand, you want to scale your business, well, you need to start thinking, okay, well, that means that I'm going to need other people to take telephone calls, or I'm going to have to learn how to sell via a webinar, or I'm going to have to learn how to sell via a challenge, etc. You have to think about the end of the funnel where people actually give you the money and you give them the service, the thing that you're helping them with. Okay. So what does your funnel look like is about lead generation. And then how are you going to close sales is about actually the full commitment that the buyer is making. So we have plan, what are you selling? Plan, how are you selling? And then how to start and the consistent steps to take. Number one, you have to set up a system for this. I said in the very beginning, this needs to be systematic and ongoing. So you have to set up a system. We have a very simple system ourselves for our online media, right? In the very beginning, I was the one that learned the ads, that wrote the ads, that placed the ads on Facebook, et cetera. And then I hired Steve, which is almost 10 years ago now. In fact, October will be 10 years that he's been with me in Bestseller Publishing. And then Steve began to learn from me how to run the ads, place the ads, et cetera. And then guess what? That system now has Steve at the head of all that for me and for the company. And he knows far more than I do, but he has a system to look at our ads, take care of our ads, and make sure our ads are running every single day. If your system is about getting speaking engagements, I've talked about what that system needs to look like. And it needs to be a system that's set up so that it doesn't work just once, but it works every single day on a consistent basis. Number two, the thing that you need to know is nothing works well the first time. I always talk to people that say, Facebook ads don't work for me. That's garbage. They work for everybody, right? Now, maybe you're selling balloons and, you have a 30-cent return on investment for every balloon that you sell, and it costs you $3 to sell a balloon. Then, yeah, probably won't work for you. But again, if you have something high ticket that you're selling, then you can certainly sell that using online media, offline media, speaking engagements, all the things that I'm sharing. But don't expect it to work the first time. This is gold. Being able to create a system of generating leads that produces leads for you day in and day out on a regular basis is it's the holy grail, right, of having a business. Don't expect that the first time you set it up after a few hours of work, everything works perfectly. Nothing in life works that way. It doesn't work its best the first time. It will take some time. So number three, be persistent with it, like figuring it out, and then be consistent, meaning that the key to having a system is that it happens day in and day out, over and over and over again. I tell people with the simple speaking system that I've spoken about is in the BSPU area. I'm like, look, if you do this after 2 or 3 weeks and you don't get a telephone call, you don't get an appointment with a decision maker, that's normal. But that's why you've got to do it for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks. And then it starts to flow. And not only does it flow, but it snowballs downhill because you start booking yourself over and over and over again using that simple speaking system. That's what Amy did to book herself for 97 speaking engagements. She's just persistent and consistent. And if you are, you will make it work. Number four, after you do these things, then ask for help and advice. And I'm always willing to give you help and advice in a group like this. So, I don't do individual calls with my authors typically, and I don't do that because there are so many of you. So what I will do though, is if you ask me a question in a group setting like this, it's probably a question that other authors could learn from and gain valuable insight into. And so, we'll do a hot seat during a BSPU call, or we'll break down your stuff. I'm more than happy to do that. But I'm not happy to do that until you do these other steps, have you been doing it a while? What are the results that you've gotten? Show me the statistics. How many calls have you taken to not close any, et cetera? Once you've taken these steps, now we have some data that we can work with. And I can say, okay, here's your problem. Your problem is you're getting qualified people on the telephone, but you don't have a great consultative sales strategy to be able to turn those good leads into closed sales. Here's how to fix that, right? There's no reason to ask for help and advice until you've taken the other steps and you have data to share. And then number five, after all that's done, you can then expand to other strategies for lead generation and sales. I run webinars. I do speaking engagements. I run my own events from time to time. I have offline stuff where I do direct mail. We run challenges. We use my books for referrals. I use my books to get into media. I didn't do all of that stuff on day one, right? I did all of that stuff over time as I expanded. I've been doing this for 10 years, so I continue to expand. If you're in the Facebook group, you've seen that just recently I made this new offer, and I just made it to my clients, and I think it's full at this point. Although I've told a couple people, if you need more time, I'll give you more time. But I think we've already sold the 5 for the beta test. But basically, what I'm doing is I am testing this entirely new offer. Well, why am I doing that? Because I have my other offers dialed in. So I have so many of you that have asked me about, hey, can BSP book me for speaking engagements and, et cetera. And I've always said no. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe we can. Let's give it a try. So Amy and I put together a system, and we're going to give it a try to do that for some of you. But, that's not the core of my business. The core of my business is publish, promote, profit. We help you to ghostwrite if that's what you need. We help you to publish. We help you to launch your book to bestseller. We get you on radio, TV, media. We'll even help you to build out your funnel, for a fee. So we do all of those things. Those are our core offers. But guess what? I can expand those core offers, right, as my clients want more. So always start with your basis. Always start with the thing that you're already selling. You're already good at selling that. Or if you're not sure because you're pivoting, then with research, with looking at what others are selling, with figuring out your own desire, personality, strengths, all the things that I just shared, come up with one great offer and then focus on that. And don't expand that great offer. Don't expand the way you're trying to sell that until you dial in both the offer and the thing that you're using it to sell, right? Whether online, offline, speaking, etc. Okay. So to make an ROI with your book, and this is, all these things are general because you may want to do that through a coaching business. You may want to do that through, one-on-one meetings with people and consulting. You may want to do that through selling courses only. I don't know. It doesn't matter though, because these things are general enough and basic enough for you to understand these are the steps that I need to take. And there's no reason, right, to get help or advice until you've taken these steps, because we don't have any data to work with until you've taken these steps and you can tell yourself and others, hey, here's how the market has responded to it. This is what the market has said about my offer, about the way I'm using my book, about my lead generation, about my closing strategies, etc. But the book alone, I'm going to go back to the very first thing I said, the book alone is not enough. And you must ask yourself, how am I using the best asset I can ever have, my best-selling book, to grow my business? Okay.